that's it for now. I'm gonna sit here and soak up some shade, turn on the fan, drink my lemonade. Life is good. Anyway, thanks for watching, and that might be the last video for the trike for now. Anything after this is just going to be little incremental tweaks. The next thing, or decide, do I want solar as part of this setup or not? I might put solar on the trailer. That might be an idea. I'm not making any sense. Anyway, yeah, as always, thanks for watching. Thanks for all your support. Special thank you to all the Patreons and people that have sent donations. Patreon, PayPal, or just randomly dropping stuff off in person. All very much appreciated. And yeah, subscribe and stay tuned for the next one. Bye for now. And stop. Check. Okay, wireless mic on. Okay. The first successful test ride on the bike. Okay, time 1:28 on the 25th of May. First round of testing done. Today is May 25th. I brought the clock out. I was using this clock for making my chart. I guess I'm in the shadow. So now on Turtle, whenever I'd have something break or the battery would quit working, I'd have to pull it home. Today, for honestly the first time, when the battery dropped offline, I was able to pedal it home, which is a huge improvement. Oh my God, so much better, right? 47.8 now, okay? That's a good number, 47.8. That's basically offline. I did one loop the first time when I took this camera along. I went out the trail. Well, first I went here and back about once, then down the trail. And what I was doing is I'd ride a few feet, stop, set the camera up, ride past it, do that a few times. So I got kind of old, but it wasn't like I was going very far anyway. Now I got sweat in my eye. Perfect. Okay, so after that, I decided, okay, to put this camera away, and I had the GoPro sitting on the Chariot. So this is on top of yesterday's testing. The batteries this morning, when I was checking them, when I resoldered that lead, I was getting 13.3 right in there, 13.33, something like that, on each of them. They were very close to each other, which is really good. So what I started doing then, at 12:20, I came back and I did to the road and back. And then I did around Wells Fargo. So basically all the way around the property. So I went out the trail, down the county road, onto the other road, came back up, and then through here. So I did a complete loop. Okay, and I'll figure out how far that is because I had a GPS on my phone recording the whole day. So I went around that loop 2 or 3 times, looks like 3 times. And then the 4th time I got down to the gate, which is almost halfway. And then the battery went offline, and you're like, okay, you hit the throttle, nothing happens. So I go ahead and turn it around, start pedaling back, then I hit the gas again. Battery had a chance to recover, so it went for maybe 1/10 of a mile, then it dropped offline, so then I kept pedaling. And I got it to hit about 3 times coming back. It gave me just a little shot to get me going, and then it would drop off and I'd keep pedaling. I haven't had any trouble at all on the electric side, aside from running out of batteries, finally. But the fact that I was able to pedal it home after the battery went dead, and it wasn't so bad. Now, obviously, it's harder than a bicycle, but not terrible. So I'm kind of excited about that. Yeah. A lot of the loops I was pedaling on parts of it. So I was kind of like simulating what I would do when I was really on the ride. So my goal is to do most of the pedaling and have a little bit of an electric assist. So I'm still fine-tuning that. The motor can go faster than I can pedal because I'm geared pretty low on the pedaling side. So if I just kind of cruise along at about 1/3 throttle, I can pedal and keep up to that. But this is the first time I've really had a fully charged battery. And I'm really starting to get excited about this because this is the small battery and it went quite a ways. And I was kind of pushing it a little bit to see how far it would go before it ran out. You know, if I have to pedal all the way home, but you can use electric on half of the way going there, that's going to still make my life easier. So, pretty excited. Yay. All right. Check. Okay, wireless mic on. Okay. The first successful test ride on the bike. Starting from the front, this is affectionately known as the Blue Bike. I bought this in Austin, Texas when I lived there. It was literally the cheapest bike. Hang on, am I even seeing myself? I cannot tell. That's a wonderful shot. Okay, this is affectionately known as the Blue Bike. This was a single speed 700 series or 29. They're like, these are bigger than 26-inch wheels. It's like the biggest normal size wheel you can get. This was a single speed bike when I bought it. This was my main bike out here until I broke the rear spokes. I broke at least 3 spokes on the rear wheel. At the time, I didn't have any spare spokes or any extra money, so I just grabbed another bike that I had. I also had a regular 26-inch mountain bike. The 26 is the one I've been riding since I broke this one. Okay. Anyway, so when I was doing Turtle, which is over there, I've got the motor, the batteries, the speed controller, and so on for Turtle, but I haven't been able to test with Turtle yet because I haven't got the steering built. Been having some trouble with that. So what I decided was to go ahead and backtrack a little bit and build a trike based on one of the bicycles. That way I could start testing the motor and the batteries and the speed controller, and I already had steering figured out and also brakes. So I'm using the brake on the front of the bike as the only brake that works right now. Okay. So I figured, all right, that gives me a starting point. Also, then I've already got pedals figured out to a point. But what I wanted to do, one of the things I learned on Turtle, I had a solid rear axle, and it was really hard to make it turn because it was like posi lock. You know, if your axle is locked up on the back, it doesn't want to turn. You should have a differential. A differential was out of the scope of what I was trying to do. So I thought on this one, I've got the motor on this side. The motor is only driving this wheel. The pedals come back to here. There's a shaft called the jack shaft that I've got a sprocket here that turns the shaft. There's another sprocket on this side that turns this back wheel. So that way I've got 2 independent drive wheels. I got electric on one side and pedal on the other. So when I get to a turn, what I found in testing, if I'm turning to the left, I can just hit the throttle a little bit, and since the outside wheel has got power, that does help me turn the corner. If I'm pedaling to the right-hand corner, I can pedal, and it actually helps. I can pedal left and right, but I do feel it kind of pushing me the wrong way. All right, so as far as just a quick run through on the systems, this has got a throttle on it. This is running down to the speed controller. This speed controller is a 30 amp, 48 volt speed controller that came as a kit with this motor. The motor is 750 watts. It's a gear motor. So there's a gear reduction system built into the motor, which is perfect. I didn't really think about it when I bought it, but a lot of the description was like you could use this with go-karts and that kind of a thing. And I'm like, okay, that might be good. What I need is something that's got lots of power, lots of torque. I don't care if it goes very fast. Okay. So up here I've got just a master switch. It's a breaker switch actually. That's all of the power from the battery is going through here. I've showed the battery in the past, but the battery is made up of 26 650 lithium iron phosphate cells that are spot welded in series 4S for 12 volts. Then I went 2P to make a 12 volt 4S 2P pack. And then I've got 4 of those wired in series for 48 volts. So today for testing, I started off over 53 volts. and at the point of drop off, it was down to 47 volts. So that's based on my multimeter, which may or may not be accurate, but it's a starting point. Okay. I'm going to figure out the miles later, so I'm not going to worry about that too much, but the 48 volt battery pack running through the speed controller, taking inputs from the throttle, that's going back, it's a brushless electric motor. The motor came with that sprocket. It's a 420 size motorcycle sprocket, so I just bought a 420 size chain and a set of sprockets. When I was setting up for Turtle, which was my recumbent bike, I'm going to see if I can turn into the wind or put my back to the wind, help the mic out a little bit. Originally, I was using all bicycle parts, but I've already broken bicycle wheels, and I was having a hard time getting things to mix and match between. So one of the stimulus checks, I bought these motorcycle wheels. I got these from Amazon. I can't remember if it was Amazon or eBay. I go back and forth a lot. So these are mini bike wheels. They are, because I always forget, 70 by 100 by 19. They're knobby wheels, and it was like I got the wheel. The wheel comes with a tire and a tube, so it's inflated and ready to go. And then I bought an axle assembly, 15 millimeter axle that goes through it. And then I made adapters to put, this is supposed to be a front wheel, so it's got 4 lugs in the wheel for running your disc brake. That one didn't come with a brake, but you can buy a wheel kit that comes with a brake and a disc rotor and a brake caliper and a handle, which is something I thought about, but at the time I just didn't have the money for that. So I took the 2 sprockets that I had, and I was looking at it, and I'm like, for the sake of redundancy, both of these wheels are set up the same. So they both have the same size of 420 sprocket on it. So on the pedaling side, I'm actually pedaling bicycle chain in the middle, motorcycle chain on the outboard side. That way both wheels are set up exactly the same. So if I decide to swap wheels, for instance, if I just want to rotate the tires for wear, the wheels and the sprockets are all the same. I can just flip them back and forth. Later on, if I get a spare, I could carry a spare and just do a quick change, put the sprocket on it, and I'd be ready to go. Okay, so that's working out really good. These knobbies, one of the questions I had, a few people doubted if this was going to work very well at the size of the wheels. It's going to be hard to pedal a motorcycle wheel. It's harder than a bicycle, but it's not very difficult. I'm easily able to pedal around the yard right now. Now, you can definitely feel the extra weight, but when you're just cruising down the road, it actually rolls pretty easy. A few times I can just, let off the throttle and coast, and it coasts for quite a ways. It's not as much of a hardship because a motorcycle would weigh 300 or 400 pounds. Right now, these are aired up pretty high. They're really hard. So that gives me a really low rolling resistance. If I feel like it's too rough, I might soften them up, take a little bit of air out of them. But basically, it's working. So don't mess with it. There's another video I did a while ago where when I made this chain tensioner, I just, in the starting phase, I didn't want to cut my chains. Both of the chains are too long. They're 2 different sizes. When I ordered the chains, I didn't really know what size I needed. So this one is about 108 links. The one on the other side was about 132. I did cut the one on the pedal side, but this is still the original length. So I just put these roller skate wheels here, kind of eyeballed it, drilled the hole, put the bracket in place. So the chain runs over the skateboard wheel on both, coming in and coming out. And for now, that's working. They seem like they're holding up pretty good. I haven't gone that far yet, so we'll see. But I expect them to last quite a while. You don't hear about people wearing out their skateboard wheels too fast. So if it doesn't work, we'll try something else. But for now, it seemed like it was working. There isn't a lot of tension on the chain. Normally on a bicycle or motorcycle, you would loosen up your axle and slide the wheel back. When I built my framework, I was trying to keep the sizes down. I actually originally do have slots cut that I could move the wheel in, but I didn't leave myself very much room in the frame, so I can't move the wheel very much. So in the meantime, I put some washers in there and welded the washers over the slots so the wheel just sits in one spot. That way it doesn't move. For now, I think that's an easier way, and then I'm going to probably come back and figure out a better chain tensioner, but that was good enough for now. That's what the motor looks like. It's complete overkill, but what I want is something that'll last a long time. I don't want to have a little, you know, like an electric skateboard motor or a hub motor or something like that that's just barely enough. I'm hauling 50 pounds of groceries, 15 miles on a rough, sandy, gravelly road. So this is a little more extreme than something I would use if I was just going down to the local grocery store, you know, 3 or 4 miles away on a paved road. I wouldn't need this, but it's a little bit harsher out here. Something else I added that I haven't quite got dialed in yet. The bike is essentially a single speed, but I've got a smaller sprocket that I just bolted on up here to give me an underdrive so I can get up a hill if I need to. And because of that, I put a chain tensioner, a derailleur on here to kind of help line up the chain and to take up the slack when I go down to the smaller size. That's not quite right yet. It doesn't seem to stay in gear yet, but as it is right now, I only had this come off a couple times today. That's a lot better than it has been. It used to be I couldn't go 50 feet and the chain would fall off. So we're getting really good. We're getting closer. So today when I was on the test ride, I was doing a mix of pedaling and electric because that's what I'm going to do. I don't know how far to go on electric only, and that really isn't my goal. I want to see how far I can go and how easy it is to pedal. So as we get further, then I'll start pushing the motor and the batteries more. But I was able to pedal. If I'm going slow enough, I can keep up. The motor can go faster than I can pedal though. So if I throttle back to about 30%, then I can pedal and that'll make the battery last longer. Speaking of the battery, this is the one we're calling the Amazon box battery because it's in an Amazon box. I added some brackets today so that the bungee cord kind of holds it down. One of the times that I had a failure on the battery was because I was bouncing so hard, one of the leads broke off. So up here, it's probably in the shot, I'm using XT60 connectors. And the battery is made up of 4 12-volt batteries. And so each one of them is on an XT60. For now, I'm keeping it as modules to make it easier to move things around and troubleshoot. Also, it's easier I can hook these batteries into parallel and charge them as a single 12-volt battery instead of trying to charge them as a 48-volt battery. So inside of here, and I'll show the video earlier that I shot today of rebuilding these. So I added some more padding, mostly weather stripping, to the batteries, taped around it to kind of hold everything tight so that when they're bouncing, I don't rip the leads off. And today it worked out pretty well. So there's 4 individual batteries, so there's 4 of them like this. Each one of these has 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 4 on the other side, so 8 batteries, 4 series for 12 volts. When they're fully charged, it's more than 12 volts. And that's for testing. That's good enough for now. This is the pigtail I made that just hooks all of it goes positive, negative, to make 48 volt battery. So coming out of this end is 48. That goes to there. And that's it. So electric on that side where the motor is. I made this big enough to put a cargo tote on for when I'm hauling groceries. I may take the bicycle and hook it to the back of here. I'm sorry, the cargo trailer I made. Because then I can have like tools on here and pull a trailer full of groceries. This was how I did my GoPro. A couple shims of plywood, GoPro mounted to a little angle bracket. This is the GoPro Session. On the other side, it doesn't roll hard, honestly. I mean, if you were walking it, if you notice, I'm actually turning, when I'm pushing it, it's turning the motor, but there isn't very much resistance there. That was one of the things I was kind of worried about. And then here's the jack shaft. In this case, it's using threaded rod. I'm not sure if I like that idea or not, but so far it's working. It might be too flexible. These are bearing blocks, and they're just bolts going through the frame here and here. Here's the sprocket for the bike pedal. I took apart a six ring cassette, whatever you call it, off another one of the mountain bikes. So I've got a really big rear sprocket, so I'm geared way down, which does help a lot. Otherwise, it was too hard to pedal. The original sprocket off of this bike, it was it's geared too high for going up the hills out here. It was a real challenge. So I figured if I geared it down enough, if I did have problems with the battery, I'd still be able to pedal home instead of walking. That's the goal, is just to make it easy enough that I can get it home. There's a free wheel in here, so I can still coast or pedal backwards. I'm testing systems here that will end up on Turtle. Turtle is the recumbent bike. If I bought another disc rotor set, this is off of a go-kart kit. Ended up not using any of the other parts though. I bought the go-kart kit before I decided not to do a solid rear axle. One of the issues though, the motorcycle wheels and the bicycle wheels have bearings built into the wheels. So typically you would put an axle through the bearing. Your motorcycle or your bicycle has a bearing and an axle as part of the wheel. You just take it off as a set. On the motorcycle, you pull the axle out, then lift the wheel out. So this is kind of what I'm doing here. When I was doing Turtle, I'd knocked out took out the bearings and then welded inserts into the wheels and then bolted the wheels onto a solid axle. Then I could pedal and electrically drive that same axle, but it didn't turn very good because it was a solid rear axle. So that was the problem. As it is right now, it is working. It's not perfect, but I think it's close that I would probably consider riding it into town. Close. Maybe not quite, but close. So, what I wanted to remember, when I first got some of the test rides done on Turtle, up until then, there was so much crap going on. You're like, oh crap, you got months and months and all of your spare money tied up in this stupid project, and it's just not working, right? I've been fighting with this stupid thing for a couple months, I think. Ironically, one of the hardest, most troublesome things has been pedaling. The electric drive is pretty easy. If I just wanted an electric mini bike, that would be pretty simple. But yesterday in testing, I hit a couple bumps. One of the wires broke off the battery, lost power. Then I had to walk all the way from the county road, which was a quarter of a mile, pulling this stupid thing behind me, across the desert. I am so much liking this time when I was down at the gate, and there's clips of the first test rides on Turtle when I was down at the gate and something broke. Pull it all the way home again, all the way up that stupid hill. I mean, it's not steep, it's just, I don't know, it's at least a quarter mile to the gate. So it's just, nobody wants to do that. This time, the battery goes dead. Okay, pedal at home. I've been pedaling it all day anyway. Testing, so I would do parts of a loop, pedal only, then I'd rest. And this is the best thing. Pedal for a while. When you start getting tired, hit the throttle. Coast for a while. Just let the motor take up the slack. Then when you kind of catch your breath, what I was doing on throttle, even at half throttle, I can't pedal that fast with the gearing I've got on the bicycle. Okay, so slow down. About a third or a quarter throttle, then I can pedal. If I'm pedaling just enough to put tension on the chain, I'm still getting a boost from the motor, but it's kind of balancing. All right, so that means I should be able to go further. before the battery goes dead. So that's kind of the goal. You know, when I'm going to town, I'm empty. I'll be hauling trash, but I'm not having 50 pounds of groceries. So pedal as much as I feasibly can going to town so that I've got power, you know, use the power for the hills, but keep pedaling, you know. And I'm like, when I go to town, I'm pedaling anyway, right? So this way I'll be pedaling less. So pedal as much as I really can, use the motor a little bit. Long straight hills, hit the throttle for a while. When it's leveler, pedal more. You know, that's in my mind. I've always thought I wanted to pedal about 70% and use the electric 30%, because on days that I've got a tailwind, it is such a nice ride going to town where I'm, you know, if I'm going along and I've got a little bit of a boost from the tailwind or a little bit of a boost from coming down the hill, it's not that bad. But when you're going up the hill and you got a headwind, that's when the motor's really going to make a difference. Once I have a benchmark of how far I can go, then I can start thinking about solar panels. Because if I can ride around here, you know, and like this chart that I made, I don't know if it was really showing up on before, but I think there's no glare there. Okay, so I rode for, say, 20 minutes, and the battery dropped about 0.6 of a volt, 0.6 of a volt. The next time I did the same loop faster, I did it in 15 minutes, but then the battery was starting to come down, and that dropped 1.5 that time. Oh yeah, that's why it went dead the next time. It was starting to fall. The power curve on these batteries, it'll hold high voltage for a long time, and then it just drops. So you go along, you're thinking you're doing good. You know, a lead acid battery starts off at full, and it'll just gradually come down. So you can just keep ticking off the numbers as you're going. This guy, it'll go all the way across and then drop. So you don't really have an idea based on voltage what your state of charge is. From here going forward, I've got a working system now. There's some definite things I need to work on. I do need brakes. I think what I'll do is I'll hook up the go-kart brakes to the pedaling side where I've got it now. Not put any brakes on the electric side. And then I've still got the front brakes. I can dial them, and the wheel is bent on the front, so I've got them cranked all the way out so it doesn't drag so much. Okay. Work on the battery a little bit more. And I haven't tested the big battery yet, so that might be the thing. Put the big battery on and see how far I can go with that. Now, I don't want to run that one dead and be 20 miles from home, but the big battery is the same setup as this. It's just bigger. So if I start looking at my voltage numbers and say, okay, I went this far, this far, this far, I can probably map that out and just multiply everything by 3, and maybe we'll be okay. And as long as I can pedal home, then we're not any worse off than we were now. Yeah, I just wanted to remember, it was so much fun just cruising along. I'm getting better with, you know, when I first got on the trike, I didn't like it because you hit a bump and it would roll and you just go cruising sideways. You know, very strange feeling. So you got to learn to deal with that. But I found I started getting more natural, transitioning from throttle to pedal and both and neither. You know, get to the point, coming up over the berm, coming from the road onto my trail. I found that if I just started pedaling and about halfway up I hit the throttle, they both would spin and I just pop right up. It was no big deal, right? So I'm starting to learn that if I want to go slow around stuff, I just pedal, you know, so I don't accidentally hit the gas and it takes off on me. Because you hit a bump and you bump it a little bit. So if you do it with your pedaling, then that's more predictable, right? Now that I've gotten to test it a little bit, I think pedal assist would be a good idea. So I'm going to look into that, because if I can hook up a pedal assist sensor so that in addition to having the throttle, if I'm going to be pedaling anyway, if I can get it to match so that as I'm pedaling, the motor is also going, then I can kind of fine tune that. I think that'll be worth doing. Maybe not right away, but down in the future, I think that'll be a good thing. Yeah, definitely a good first test. I was so disappointed in the batteries initially, and then I realized I wasn't fully charging them. So now they're looking a whole lot better. You know, before I didn't know if I could make it to the road and back, and then the battery was going dead. So that wasn't very good. But in my mind, I kept thinking, man, these batteries should be a lot better. You know, so now I finally got a good test. Anyway, yeah, as always, thanks for watching. Thanks for all your support. Special thank you to all the Patreons and people that have sent donations. Patreon, PayPal, or just randomly dropping stuff off in person. All very much appreciated. And yeah, subscribe and stay tuned for the next one. Bye for now. And stop.